Welcome back to another episode of RNT Fitness Radio. Today I'm joined by one of our clients based out in Toronto, Tim Johnson, who's undergone an incredible transformation to drop 50 pounds and get into the shape of his life. It's been a journey full of highs and lows for Tim, and in this episode we go right into the early beginnings, his initial struggles, and the why behind his transformation. What was really cool to hear about, and what will be very valuable to many of you listening, are the routines, systems, and rituals he built around his life to set himself up for a higher chance of success. We also touch on the self-limitations placed around the vegetarian diet, why it's important to put yourself first, and why it's necessary to constantly audit your social circles around you. We finish by talking about one of Tim's biggest passions, his fiction writing. And being a published author with nearly 1 million reads on Wattpad, it was cool hearing his thoughts on writing, the way he writes, his process, and how he gets a lot of writing done during his cardio. I hope you enjoy this one. Yes, you've had a slightly untraditional reverse, because you finished your diet and then the next day you finished your shoot, and then the next day you were off to the UK and then off to Morocco.
So the next day, I was literally that day. I did my shoot. That night, I got on a plane back to the UK. It was my brother's birthday. And then the day after, we were off for a week all-inclusive to Agadir. So yeah, did everything that you guys had told us not to do. Whatever you do, don't go from photo shoot to all-inclusive vacation. But it was awesome. And I knew it was coming the whole time. So I had the whole time to mentally prepare and be like, I will not screw this up. I will not screw this up.
And you didn't, right?
No. In fact, if anything, at the end of that vacation, I felt like I was in just a little bit better condition. I think, the pictures kind of speak for themselves a little bit. You can see the front on photo of my photo shoot and then the front of one of my vacation is quite a big difference. I think it's just because, maybe getting a little bit more carbs, much more relaxed, a lot of sun, a nice beach pump, kind of felt like the pressure fit was gone. But no, I really kept to it. I brought my scales out there. I brought my blender out there. And then the hotel we were at was really good. So I was able to get access to great food throughout, and even good vegetarian food, which obviously for me is super important as well. Really smashed the eggs, because obviously all-inclusive, you can have as much as you can. So I was killing the egg whites, so many egg whites. But that is what I wanted to do, just to make sure I just couldn't throw this away. I've kind of been through this battle so many times, and this has to be the last one. Yeah,
the fact that you went to an all-inclusive and came back in slightly better condition is something you don't hear about often. I did the same thing. You've probably heard the story where I did an all-inclusive holiday after my first bodyboarding show in 2014, and I gained 7 kilos in 7 days. And that's pretty tame, as I've heard some stories being really big, but I felt like absolute crap after that. And it kind of put me in a bad light with the whole reverse, because I went from being so focused to having no structure at all and not really knowing what was coming, that when I came back to the UK after the trip, it just carried on. And then, another 6 weeks later, I was another 6 kilos up. So then it took me a while to kind of reframe myself and get the habits back into place, because I think when you're at that most vulnerable point of low body fat and having just come off a hard calorie deficit, I think everything's exposed to change.
Yeah. And I think probably the difference between getting lean and show lean, right? It's a big difference. Yeah. Like, you look at me, the end of my journey is like you at the beginning of your journey. So it's a whole kind of different bodybuilding, a whole different ballgame what bodybuilders go through. I listened on the podcast when you guys were talking about it, and you said, there's people that are building up a treat cupboard the whole time through their whole prep, and if they're feeling like something, they're going to put it in that cupboard, and then they're going to unleash on that cupboard as soon as they're done. And I think, wow, if you're allowing yourself you must get so desperate and just so deeply hungry that it must be so hard to have any control after that at all. Were you boozing as well on those ones, on the all-inclusive?
Yeah, the boozing wasn't too bad. It was, I was drinking, but it was mainly the food. And it was the fact that, especially the sweet treats were just like a bottomless barrel, right? Yeah. It's unlimited amounts. And the problem is when you're really lean, your hunger hormones don't really work properly. Yeah. You don't know what the concept of full is.
Yeah.
So your body just says you need to keep eating, you need to keep eating, but your gut's telling you something else because you're kind of bent over in pain. It's horrible, but it's a lesson learned. I mean, I haven't really, when I competed last year in 2017, I was much more prepared for it. So I didn't go through anywhere near the same. And in fact, I probably stayed lean too long after the show. Like I still had striated glutes about 10 weeks after the show, which, it was a bit too extreme because I was almost like, I'm not going to let this go. I'm not going to do the same as before. So I'm going to really, do this diligently. But ultimately I had to gain some body fat just to feel better. So that's why I'm so pro like the reverse dieting, and I kind of shove it down your throat quite often, which as you hear it all the time, right?
Thank God, and thank God for that. I'd never heard that phrase beforehand. In fact, before I even did this, I was speaking to a colleague who did a bikini fitness show, and when I mentioned to her reverse diet, she had never heard of it, and she took it really seriously. Like, she looked amazing on stage, but she said I think like by 14 days after my show, it was like you would have never been able to tell that I were even really trained. And I was like, oh my God, that's terrible. Like, it just seems so harsh, right? It seems so harsh. So listening to you, reading that article over and over again, listening to that Tom Hollis podcast, which I referenced before, because he screwed it up the first time, and then the second time he's like, I've got to nail this. I've got to do this. That's really helped. So now I'm 21 days out since it finished, and I'm still in that same condition from the photos that you have, and I'm really excited on Wednesday to kind of get back and start weighing stuff again. I know that's sad, but because I need to know what my final kind of, where's going to be my comfort point, how much am I going to be able to eat to keep this condition. That's going to be really exciting to just be able to get back to those data points.
Yeah, but I think the fact that you've being able to maintain condition when you're completely out of routine and you don't really know what your calories are is a huge statement to how far you've come mentally.
Oh yeah, huge. Like you look at my 10-year history of gaining and losing and gaining and losing and losing, gaining, like I never had it under control. And so now after 3 months, I was doing everything wrong. I was doing everything wrong really my whole life. And after being trained on how to do it properly, I now can look at my plate and I automatically know, okay, Tim, like you got it. Like, my plate has to be so inverted, especially as a vegetarian, right? It's really important for me to make sure that I'm eating really good protein sources. So if I'm smashing the egg whites and having like delicious kind of scrambled eggs meal, like 3/4 of that plate needs to be eggs, really, and it looks like a lot. And I was obviously had a lot of dinners at breakfast with my family, and they look at my plate and they're like, "Are you seriously going to eat all that?" And I'm like, "Yes, absolutely, I am." And this is like the key to success: is not having like toast, beans. It's like big portion of eggs, especially for kind of vegetarians.
Yeah, which we'll go into later. And, you mentioned that this has been a 10-year journey for you. It's not just been, the last 3-4 months that we've been working together. So, of course, in the time we've been working together, I think we're down about, 25, 30 pounds. But the total kind of loss over the time of your journey has been 50 pounds. But it's not been a case of start 50 pounds and lose the 50 pounds. It's been a real journey. So why don't you tell the listeners first tell the listeners who you are. It'd be good to introduce yourself. Tell the listeners who Tim Johnson is, and then talk about your journey and the early beginnings. I want to dig into the early beginnings and what some of your initial struggles were.
Absolutely. Yeah. Awesome. So hi guys, Tim Johnson here. So I'm 34, born and raised in London, as hopefully you can still tell from my accent, but have been living in Canada now since 2011. And I live in Toronto, and I work for a company called Wattpad, which is a great app for readers and writers to read books and write books. And I guess, my history with fitness is kind of interesting. I've always been chunky, always carried a bit of weight, always kind of had a lifestyle that was, I was always someone that you could definitely go for a drink with. And I guess slowly over the years, my weight just started to kind of get out of my control. So I'm 5'7.5", and kind of got up to around was knocking on 90 kilograms, and it wasn't like a good 90 kg either. So that was about 198 pounds is what I remember standing on the scale, and that was my top. And it's been a long kind of 2-year journey to get that under control and get me down to the weight which I am now, which is 146 pounds. Yeah.
What was some of your, what was some of your struggles in say the year and 3 quarters leading up to kind of the finale, and when you finally took it to that next level? What, tell us about the kind of the early beginnings of the journey of weight loss. What triggered it? Like,
so I mean, and it's not too dissimilar to some of the other guests that you've had on here. Came out long relationship, 10-year relationship. Was living had to kind of leave the city where I was living. I wanted to come home anyway, so moved out from the wonderful Regina, Saskatchewan, back to London, England, and kind of everything had fallen apart a little bit. Like I kind of was moved into my parents' spare room. I was overweight, single, had a pretty junior position at a company that I really loved, but had a very junior position, was in a ton of debt, and I really was I was at ground zero, really. I kind of had to, when your life falls to pieces, the good thing is that you can actually start picking up, looking at these pieces and be like, okay, what's wrong here? What's wrong with this? What's wrong with this? And start to try and look at yourself and be like, okay, this definitely hasn't worked. I need to now kind of rebuild myself into a better man and a better version of myself. And what do I need to do that? And I mean, and it was, you know, when I look at the journey that I've gone on now, I'm just so grateful for the hard stuff too, because it's really helped kind of build me up and gave me this opportunity to become a much, much better person and kind of focus on all these areas that I really needed to focus on and really needed to spend time engaging with, and kind of taking my ego out of it and just looking at stuff and being like, okay, Tim, you're fat. Like, this ain't working. Whatever you're doing is not working. You need to kind of figure this out. And so that process took a long time, but through a lot of self-development, I really started to build myself up, and things happened a little at a time. Like, first was like to tackle the debt and the fitness. Like I immediately could get on that straight away. Good thing about moving into your parents' spare room is that overnight, you all of a sudden don't have any bills and can restart kind of tackling that. So that was a kind of a good thing too. And over that time, I then also like worked hard at my job, really focused at that. Ended up having the opportunity to move back to Canada, to move to Toronto, and got a promotion at my work. Then got another promotion at my work, which really helped things. I was saving up, I'd beaten down my debt, and over that kind of first 6 months, I lost the first kind of 25 pounds as well.
And then so you're down 25 pounds.
Yeah.
You got yourself out of debt.
Yeah.
And then what happened? This is now 18 months ago, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So
yeah.
You came to me and you were still you were that same weight when you came to me. So what happened in that period of 15 months? What was going on there?
Yeah. So then the next time, so then I moved to Toronto, and I was feeling great. I was in what had been like the best shape I'd been in for years and years and years. And I had a great job, was loving it, exciting new city. Started to really focus on like saving, putting money aside, and then end up with some help from my family, getting deposit for buying a property out there. That all happened over the next 12 months. Really, that 12 months was the first time I'd ever managed to stay within a 4 pound kind of variance, like a 4 to 5 pound variance. Before, it'd always been up and down 20 pounds plus, but really always going up. It would be like up 15 pounds, down 10, up 17 pounds, down 13, but always kind of edging up over the years as my metabolism slowed. And I'm saying that in air quotes because realistically, it was probably just my drinking tolerance increased, so I could just have a heck of a lot more calories.
Yeah.
I could eat much more, and that probably really what it was. Anyway, got to the point where I finally had enough for a condo, and ended up purchasing a condo. And at that point, I really felt like, wow, I'm in a really good spot here. That was May of 2018. I also. It's funny how things work out. Like when your life is in order, you're so much so much better. You're so in such a better position to pursue other things. End up meeting an amazing girl as well. Have a fantastic girlfriend. And I'm like, shit, Tim, you're like, I was like, really had things in order. Weight's under control, living my life with a great girl. I just bought a condo that I love, and I have a fantastic job. Like, this has been that kind of been transformation one. And then, unfortunately, disaster struck on my birthday, my 34th birthday, 21st of July, 2018. There was someone from above threw a cigarette, and it landed on my balcony furniture. That caused a fire, which gutted my condo, and actually ended up flooding 60 other units in the building from the the fire sprinklers going off. So my condo was completely destroyed. So everything I kind of had and built up was taken away, and that was a little bit tough. I've always, tried not to place too much of an emphasis on possessions. But it was hard losing everything that I'd worked for. And I just finished. It was lucky I wasn't in there, quite frankly, but I just finished the day before outfitting it. It looked brilliant. It really did look quite good. And it was completely destroyed. So after that, thank God I was with my girlfriend at the time. She's been super supportive. Crashed with her for a bit and kind of figure things out. But like, that was looking like that would be the narrative of the year, is that basically I'd bought a condo and burnt down. That was it. And I have to say, like, that's when I felt like things with my condition was starting to slip. I was taking my girlfriend out a bit more because I was living with her, so I wanted to treat her a bit more. And I found myself just like having a few beers here and there, and then I was like, okay, Tim, you've got to get this under control. I can feel it slipping a bit. I'm going to do a 6-week challenge with a bunch of people at work. I finished that challenge in worse condition that I started it in, and then I was like, this is now starting to slip. I think I need some help. But who the hell am I going to go to? And that's when I started searching hashtag like vegetarian transformations. Because at this point, I think I think I would always have like a couple of hours a week or even more, just like looking up like fitness tips, nutrition tips, like keto vegetarian, or like intermittent fasting, like before and after. Like I was constantly like on the treadmill looking for more and more and more new stuff, like just on that. You know how it is, that there's so much content out there to enjoy, right? And before you've done something, before you signed up for someone like RNT, you're just kind of at a whim. You're a bit like floating in the wind, doing whatever. And that was 100% me.
And then what happened? You struck gold on Instagram.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you've got like a good number of vegetarian transformations, and I didn't see like vegetarian. There's not much under like vegetarian bodybuilding, vegetarian fitness, vegetarian. There's not much, and you've got a few. And I looked at some of the case studies, and that night I couldn't sleep. I just was like, shit, these guys can get it done. These guys can get it done. And I thought it was exactly 3 months till the end of the year. And I thought, this is my chance to change the narrative of this year, take back control, sign up with these guys and do it. But first, I'm going to try and do it by myself. And so I took another few weeks to reverse engineer like the transformation that I thought was most akin to my body type. You very kindly put it all up on there, and I was like, I'll be able to do this. He's vegetarian too. We're similar body shapes. Like, this should be easy. After that failed, I messaged Akash and I was like, yo, hey man, I need your help.
Amazing. And here we are.
Exactly.
3 months later.
Yeah, exactly.
No, amazing. I mean, one thing that I picked up a lot on from what you just said there is taking control of your narrative, and taking ownership for yourself and deciding on the course ahead. How important do you think it is for people to, put themselves first and audit themselves on how they're not only spending their time, but, when they're buying social times or buying social commitment? Because you mentioned there, like, you felt like you needed to treat your girlfriend, so you went out just to get to drink, get to the drinking. And how important is that? And how big a problem is it in people's own self-sabotage?
Yeah, it's massive. I think there's like throughout this process, what's been probably one of the most fascinating things is that if you don't defend your time, others will just take it. They'll just pop things in there. If you're not really constructing your day, if you're not clearly kind of creating your own system or doing things in a conscious way, people will absolutely they'll book your time for you. Your time will just get taken. If you're not kind of planning it, someone else will plan it for you. Equally, you have to when you're planning things, you have to really look at it and be like, is this for me? Is this for them? Or is this for me? And I think that there's kind of like a third part in that too as well, which is you've got to if you have something that you're trying to do, especially transformation, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be hard. And for me, like I'd listened to a lot of the podcasts, and I kind of what Akash D said about getting it all done in the morning was the key thing. You also have to be a little bit selfish, and you have to put yourself first. And that was quite difficult for me. I've always been a little bit someone that will always kind of put others ahead. And so even when I first said I wanted to do this, I said to my girlfriend, I was like, I'm going to do this, and I'm doing this for you. Like, I'm going to get in such good shape, and you're going to love it. And she's like, whoa. She like called me out on it so hard immediately. And she's like, if you're doing this for you. Like, I don't want to have that on me. No thanks. And I was like, you're right. I need to do this for me, and I need your help. I need you to support me. She was like, let's do this. So that was good.
That's a good girl you got there then.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And like, honestly though, part of that is the team. Like, you're kind of going to have two camps of people, I think, doing this. First one is going to be your mates who are going to support you. And when you say, hey guys, I can't come out and I can't get battered with you, but if anyone wants to meet me for a tea or a coffee, like, I'd love that. And you're going to get one camp's like, oh yeah, definitely. Like, let's go for brunch. Let's do this. Like, let's go do some activity. Like, let's go paintballing or do something that's like non-alcohol related or non-like calorie related. And then you got another camp that are like, oh, like, you're boring now. Like, no. And are they really your mates if they can't interact with you without like getting drunk or like getting access to drugs, whatever that thing is? Are they really your friends, or are they just kind of using you to get to that? I think that's what's been really fascinating throughout this process is like, for the relationships that I had, for people that like really backed me and remained kind of flexible when we hung out, like those relationships are really, really strengthened. And you sort of, especially when you go through something like this long, that's quite intense. And then other relationships, like I guess people are just like, oh, actually, like, Tim's pretty boring now. He's not like fun to hang out with. And that's okay too, because I'm like a lot happier in myself.
Yeah, you got to put yourself first. Then you also got to know, you got to order your circle all times. Mm-hmm. And it's so underrated. And a lot of people go through life without doing so.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true.
One thing I want to touch on that you mentioned is the routines and structures and all the kind of rituals you put into place, because I'm also a big fan of planning the day before. And not only, protecting your time, but also so you feel like you have control of the day rather than always feeling like you're chasing your tail. And for me personally, if I don't plan the day after, I go into that next day feeling anxious, and I'm like, I just don't feel right. Whereas if I know what I'm doing when, then I just feel completely in my own space, in control, and feel I can really take charge of the day.
Yeah. As we went through the transformation, for me as well, we were trying to hit. We had quite the target to hit, so we ended up having to go pretty high on steps, pretty low on calories, and you essentially have a bit of a puzzle that you have to solve. And the manner in which you solve that is by creating a system. And so, for me, my system was to wake up and just get it all done in the morning. And that is a direct quote from that Akash D podcast where he's like, yo, just wake up super early, get it all done. And by the time you go to work, you're relaxed. Then you just got to do your work and enjoy your day at work. And then you come home and spend quality time doing whatever it is that you want to do. So I'd wake up at 5 and get it all done. But the kind of key thing is that the day before is when the momentum had already started. So day before, clothes are laid out by the door. I've got a drink in the fridge ready to go. I've got my yohimbine, the caffeine there. That's all by the door. So that in the morning, I wake up at 5. I sneak out the room, get dressed quickly, take that yohimbine caffeine, grab my drink out of the fridge, bundle up, and I'm walking to the gym. And by the time that the second song is playing, the caffeine's hit, the yohimbine's hit, and you're ready to lift some weights. So I'd smash the gym for an hour, come back, and then would do my lifts. So that was just on the elliptical in the condo building that I live. Part of what we kind of haven't touched on, my other creative hobby is writing. So I'm an author, and I'm writing my next book, which will be published this year. So then I'd get on the elliptical and I'd write my novel for an hour. And then after that is when I'd hot tub for 10 minutes, catch up on all the tech news because I work in the tech industry, and then get changed and walk to work. And then when I was walking to work, I had a nice hour walk to work, for more steps to kill. So I'd listen to a business-related podcast, something about improving my craft at work, something about tech, something that would really kind of help me further my career. So by the time then I'd got to work, I'd achieved the gym, the list, I'd written my book, I'd done something creative, and I'd done a bit of self-development too. And that was all kind of by 9 a.m., which is almost like a whole day before you start today. And then after all that activity, like sitting down in my office chair, I was like, oh, this feels amazing. It feels so good just to sit down and not have to move. I could just work at a computer. Like, this is brilliant. So that was the routine. But when I went home, immediately the first thing I did was, like, before I went to bed, hard bedtime at 9 p.m. Like, had to be in bed at 9 p.m. No excuses. Didn't have to be asleep, but needed to be in bed. So prior to 9 p.m. would be rushing around, closed by the door again, outfit for work, picked out, folded on the side, and really ready to go. And creating that routine, protecting that routine. Like, I was so protective over it. And there were so many times I had to say, I'm sorry, I can't do that. But it was so worth it. And the momentum I got just ended up carrying me through this. And even when, like, my calories got pretty low, I was like, you're like, how are you doing? I was like, I don't really know. I'm just kind of floating through this, but I'm resting on my system and it's taking me. Like, it just became easier to do it than not do it, because I'd taken all thoughts and decision out of it. So, like, trying to wake up and think about doing something different was harder than just staying on that boat and staying in that system.
Are you a fan of decision fatigue?
You know what? I'd never heard of it before. And then I started listening to your guys' podcast, and the more I thought about it, I think it's completely true. I think there's something massive there. The more thoughts you can take out of your day and save them up to tackle serious problems, save your energy to tackle, like, actual things that you need to do is massive. I don't. Is there actual proper literature on it? Is there like has anyone written like a book on it or anything?
I haven't seen literature on it. I haven't really looked for the literature, but I first came across it in a book called Essentialism, and I heard about it in there. It's by Greg McKeown, I think. It's one of my favorite books. It's similar to, like, The One Thing, but it's very much about decluttering and being minimalist and focusing on, very few things, and, outsourcing in your brain all the small things. And I came across it there, and as soon as I read it, I was like, I'm kind of doing this myself in certain aspects of my life. And then I was like, maybe I should try in more areas. And I just found myself more and more just taking all the menial decisions out of my life. And as I've become, like, more and more busy with work and growing RNT, I found myself becoming more a creature of habit. And just, I try and minimize thought on anything, really. Besides, like, unless it's creative writing or client work, I try and just not think about it.
Yeah, I think that's huge, and you can see how people can go down the absolute rabbit hole of researching and looking and, like, or just collecting weird things. Like, and people put so much energy into collecting crazy stuff, and it's kind of you just wonder, like, wow, if you'd have put this much energy into your career or your family or relationships or the way you looked, how much further along you could be. I I think it's huge. I think it's something that's really important. I read the book, the Marie Kondo book, which I think is getting a little bit of a revival since her Netflix show, The Art of Decluttering and Tidying Up. The woman's an absolute nutcase. Like, she's almost like a tidying psychopath. Like, she was in there throwing out her parents' clothes and was seeing how much she could like throw in the garbage before they noticed when she was like a child. However, like, sometimes if you want to go to an expert, you have to go to someone who's quite extreme. I read that book. Wow. That had such a profound effect on me. And since decluttering my life, really, I've really found like a much deeper peace and focus, been able to write better and all that kind of stuff. Obviously now having a fire obviously decluttered everything as well. So I actually have nothing. But it was interesting because the things that I could save, a number of my clothes, everything that was already in a box, folded up and put away was fine. But now, because I lost another 25 pounds, none of that fits me anyway. And so I had to do it all again and get a new wardrobe. So that was kind of as part of it too. But I'm gonna have to get rid of all those clothes and now just just get that nice, tight, tidy, high quality wardrobe.
Yeah, for when I work from home. So during my working days, what I do is I've now got 3 piles in my wardrobe. I got 7 pairs of black joggers on the left side. In the middle, I've got 7 or whatever, however many gym t-shirts, which I don't care which one I wear. Like today, I've got a California Venice Beach one on, right? So I just have a pile of gym t-shirts. I just pick the top one on there. And then I have 3 different hoodies I just rotate between if the weather's cold. And then I just get up and just put that on. I'm on autopilot from the beginning. So I've got my set routine where, I write for a bit in my journal. Then I have my psyllium husk with lemon and salt, and then I start writing for work. So, and that's just completely on autopilot. I don't have to think about it. There's no thought process behind it. And then with my food, it's exactly the same. Like I eat the same breakfast every day, the same lunch, and pretty much the same dinner as well. So, and I think it's huge. I think it really does help you. I mean, if you've got a love for fashion or a love for cooking and different recipes, then great. But I think if you try and be too inventive with your cooking, especially on a diet during the working week, then you're going to use up so much willpower that when it comes to those testing times in the evening, when that chocolate's staring at you, you're going to be a lot more susceptible to just having it. So I try and tell people to save those creative cooking sessions to the weekend when you've got a bit more cognitive capacity.
Yeah, 100% agree. I think as well, like the snacking, that's always been like a bit of a terror for me in the evening. So having my last meal, like I'd have dinner, but then I'd have like a final egg meal just before bed, and that was really good. So I mean, and it's so funny as well when I look back. I think about myself like desperately trying to drink that protein shake within that 20-minute window. Like I'd move I'd like pack it with me and like I'm like 20 kilograms overweight and I'm so worried about drinking a protein shake between 20 minutes of my weightlifting session. And then obviously during this transformation, I was lifting at 5 and kind of having my first meal at 11 a.m. It just shows that wasn't really a thing, that was something I'd spent a lot of energy on.
Yeah, there's so many myths surrounding fitness, it's insane. One thing I want to ask you, which I always ask people who've been on really long journeys like yourself, did you have a lot of fear at the beginning?
No, I mean, I really had nothing left to lose. I don't think I was worried I wouldn't do it. I did think there's going to be a reason that it's not going to work for me. I actually did I remember thinking that really clearly at the beginning. I thought, something's going to happen. I'm going to get injured or I'm going to get sick of something. And I knew I'd got sick of protein shakes in the past and I've had to take complete breaks. And I messaged you one day and I was like, Akash, like I'm drinking this protein shake. I think I've been felt sick all day. Like I can't drink it anymore. And the reason why is because I was trying to eat just like normal foods and like have 2 slices of sourdough with like 1 egg in the morning, and then just kind of like do it on if it fits my macros, but then supplementing massively with like 100 grams of like protein shake just to try and hit the protein requirement. I really need to scrap everything I'd ever done before, completely rehash and create new meals that meant that I would hit my macronutrient goals while having like really delicious meals that I truly enjoyed. That was kind of a thing. So yeah, I did have fear in the beginning. In fact, I honestly didn't. I didn't have fear in starting, but I thought something will happen. I won't end up with the results that I'll get.
So perhaps what I meant to ask was like fear right at the beginning of your journey. So like when you had like 50 pounds to lose and everything was, and it can feel quite overwhelming at the beginning. Did you have any sense of overwhelm or feel? Or did you know exactly what you wanted to achieve?
Yeah, no, I didn't then. I knew I had to get on with it. I just had to get on with it. I knew at that point it was important just to crack on. And plus, like, I'd lost 10, 20 pounds over and over again. And I had lost before 2011. In 2011, I fought an MMA bout at 155 pounds. And that was a big weight drop. That was just mass. I think I just ate like an apple, a salad, and had a protein shake a day, and that was it for sort of like weeks and weeks on end, just to make that weight. But I was tiny. I looked at some pictures of me recently. I just looked like a little boy, a little boy still with a little bit of a belly, and so that, and I thought, oh, I've probably put on quite a bit of mass because I've been like consistently weight training, and like probably if I get to 155 pounds now, I'll be good to go.
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned 155 pounds was your mental roadblock along the way.
Yeah, we got stuck at 155 pounds for like a couple of weeks. It was hard because that'd been my goal for like years and years and years. I think, since 2011, I thought if I could just get to 155 pounds, I'll be in shape. I'll be really, and I got there and I wasn't. But I'd hit that number, and that was a huge thing. And then conversations with you, conversations with like my brother, my best mate, and they were just like, "What, man? Go! Like, keep going! Like, whatever Akash says, just do it! So then we eventually then I really had to blitz through it fast though. I couldn't like be hanging around like 154, 133. I needed to get like down to way past it fast. So that's what I really tried to focus on, is just not thinking about it and really cracking on.
Yeah, we pushed pretty hard towards the end because we had that real hard deadline to reach, and I think we dropped in the last month. It was about 10 pounds, right? Because I think once you got underneath 155, I think once you dealt with that mental roadblock, because you thought you could never get below that. Once you got over that, then it was just, then you were just flying after that, and it was just like you had that confidence to just keep pushing, and it was great.
Yeah, absolutely. It was that, and obviously going down to, I couldn't hit 50 grams of carbs as well. Like for a whole week, it was just, I just couldn't consistently get it. And then I think I screwed up one of the days, and you were like, try day of 0 carbs. And then that was easy. That was so much easier. I was like, oh yeah, that was fine. And I think then you were just like, right, fine, keep going on that then.
Yeah.
Which is what we did. And then holy crap, then the results were like daily. And you're right, it was 10 pounds in the last 4 weeks, 15 pounds in the preceding 8 weeks. And it was like, as much as I thought I'd be this special case where it wouldn't work for me, I ended up just being the same as everyone else, where it's like 8 weeks, like little changes here and there, and then like in the last 4 weeks, incredible progress, just like all of them, which is crazy. I just didn't think that would happen to me as well.
Yeah, I call it a case of gathered momentum. When you've ticked the boxes for weeks on end, and then suddenly your body just clicks and everything falls into place.
And you're so deep into it at that point. And you're so deep into it at that point, your standards become so much higher for not allowing things to derail you, because you're like, people are like, oh, there's this like cool event. My company's having a Christmas party. We really want you to come. And you just think, I've walked 50 miles in the last 5 days. I'm starving. I can't have that progress derailed, because I know if I'm in there and I'm gonna be surrounded by cheese and booze, like I'm just not going to put myself in that situation. Like, thank you so much for the invite. I'm sending you over a coffee card. I can't wait to catch up with you in the new year, but can't make it.
That happened a lot?
Yeah. I felt awful for my team. So my team at work have been so supportive. They've been like, they've been cheering me on the whole way. And it gets to the end of the year, they're like, oh, you're looking amazing, Tim. You've done so well. Like, we're going to celebrate at the team dinner. The team dinner was 2 days before my photo shoot. And I was stressing about it so much. And I just thought, like, actually, why am I even putting myself through this? I'm going to go there, and I'm going to be completely unfocused. I just said, "Oh, I'm sorry, guys, I can't make it." they were absolutely gutted. They're absolutely gutted. But I had to get so protective at the end. I mean, and we're talking about a lot about the last 2 weeks here. I think most of the transformation wasn't like that. I think I had 45 meals out. I spent 2 weeks in Portugal, traveled a ton. Even in Portugal, we still managed to make good progress. That's when I was on vacation, still having the occasional glass of wine, great food. And it's only really that last month where you kind of just have to clear the calendar. I don't want to pretend that the whole thing's like that, because at the very beginning, when you gave me my macros, I was like, this is more food I've eaten in ages. I haven't had this much food in like a year, and was loving all the rice. And then the activity, I was like, oh, this is great. I don't have to, the steps were really easy. Everything was like great. But unfortunately for me, I had obviously been like probably, well, maybe I'm just a smaller person, but the calories did have to come down a bit to start seeing that progress. So those first 2 weeks, although they were great, but I think I just kind of dropped a bit of weight in that first week just from eating like different foods and maybe eating cleaner. And then the next week it like came back a little bit. The next week it came a little bit back, and that's when you're like, oh, sorry, mate, these calories are going to be coming down.
I'm really glad you said that though, because I don't think we mentioned that. Besides the last little stretch, you were regularly at social events. I don't think you turned on any invites. You were away for 2 weeks in Portugal, which I was thinking, this guy's he's booked a shoot in 6 weeks. How's he gonna survive in Portugal? I was confused at your intentions. I was like, he's telling me he wants to do this shoot in 6 weeks, but he's going away to Portugal and he's not tracking anything. How's that going to add up? But it just goes to show that the habits that you put into place, even with the last 3 weeks after the shoot, when you've been in the UK, they've allowed you to be almost intuitive with your eating, which is a real key part of long-term sustainability.
Absolutely. And going on, Portugal was much. I've always done a lot of all-inclusive holidays, and there it's so much easier because you're going to have access to unlimited eggs. Bring your protein shake with you, bring your blender with you, and you're basically good to go. For Portugal, it was much more traveling around, staying in different hotels, different cities. And even though I had my scale, I brought my blender, it didn't work. The wattage was wrong for a North American blender, so it wasn't working. I brought protein, but I got through it in like the first few days. I had to like walk around for ages trying to find just a shaker. So it was hard. It was harder. But just even like a few things, like still kind of like staying fairly consistent on the meals. And if eating out was interesting because I'd already pre-picked like quite fancy places, because I'd looked on Instagram and they get great reviews and tiny portions. Like, that's the thing. You go to these fancy restaurants, you pay a little bit extra, but you get such a little portion. It makes such a less of an impact than if you go for like a big pizza or a big kind of feast. I think that's something that helped a little bit. And I think on that 10-day trip in Portugal, I ended up dropping like 3 pounds, which is pretty good. It was pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty good going, I think. One thing I'd be really interested to ask you about, we've only been starting talking about it recently with regards to what you do at Wattpad, but you're a really avid writer.
Yeah.
So let's talk to me about your writing process. I'm obviously a big passionate writer, so I'm always interested in hearing other people's processes and any projects you've got going on.
Yeah, absolutely. So I write fiction. So I write books. My first novel, I put it up on Wattpad, ended up getting quite successful. Ended up being read 750,000 times by people around the world. And then that's when Wattpad as a company noticed me. I was working at the Red Cross prior to that. So I worked for the Red Cross for 10 years. And Wattpad kind of gave me a call and they said, wow, your book's really resonating. We'd love to meet you. So they flew me to Toronto. I met the team. And that's when I saw the company. I was like, wow, this is sort of like, has a very much so like a Google vibe. And that's when I was like, wow, I'd love to try and work here. So I set that as a goal, was like try and get a job at Wattpad. My writing process is I'm a planner. In fiction, there's two kind of writers. There's what they call pantsers, who write by the seat of their pants, just kind of go with the flow, just get it out there and work the story. And then planners who try and like set their story out in advance so they know exactly what's going to happen, build the characters, write out everything about the characters, put them in this world, and then like really kind of guide that along. And that's how I like to write my books. And then my publisher is a small publisher called Portal Books, and it's actually started by a guy I met on Wattpad. His name's Taran Matharu. He was writing on Wattpad, wrote his fiction story, ended up being read 6.4 million times in like a few months. He ended up becoming a New York Times bestseller. Now pretty much travels the world full time writing his next book. But part of what he wanted to do as well was set up his own imprint, his own publishing house. So he hired an awesome editor, awesome marketer, who I work with now. And I was one of the authors that he kind of chose to be published. So that's been the journey. And it's been writing's a really long journey, like becoming an author. It takes a while, especially kind of because the book buying process is slow and it takes a long time to improve your craft, and you have to revise these novels. So it's been brilliant. Working with professionals has been amazing. Although working with professionals over this period as well has been kind of tough, because in my creative aspects, like my creative life, I'm working with an editor. He's like saying, Tim, like, come on, we need to do this chapter again. Like, this is a weakness. Go back, rework, revise. In my fitness life, I'm working with Akash, who's taking all my food away, increasing my steps all the time. And then obviously at my company, we have aggressive goals as well. We're like a scale up tech company. So I work in the brand solutions team. So my job is to create branded campaigns with like entertainment and CPG companies, and so we've got aggressive targets that we're trying to hit from a sales perspective. So then it's Q4, it's like everything's coming in at the same time. I'm doing my book, doing my fitness, trying to hit the company goals, but it was good. That's why like a lot of that, like eliminating a ton of that decision fatigue and creating a strong system, so I didn't really have to think about much, just focus on my work, my writing, and following the system that we created for fitness was huge.
What was your first book about?
The first book is sort of like Harry Potter meets Game of Thrones, like a really, really dark and violent version of Harry Potter. Features a young female character, and she kind of discovers this separate world. She's like a bullied kid, goes to a school very similar to like the school that I kind of grew up with. It was like really rough, horrible school. And she finds this fantasy world and is challenged by that world and kind of has to grow and become a leader in that realm. So it was that's the first book.
Where did the idea come from?
It was a weird one, actually. It literally sprung into my head completely fully formed. I was walking around Auschwitz in Poland, and I was kind of thinking about like, it'd be really interesting if I was like, it's this horrible experience, right? You go through this really emotional experience. I was like, it's so awful. And then I came out of it, and I started reading a book about Auschwitz and about kind of the world that people were living in there, and the relationship between the inmates and the officers. And I thought, it'd be fascinating to do like a really dark fantasy in which that has the same kind of tension. So that. And then like the kind of the whole novel hit me. And actually it was similar to when I chose to sign up with RNT. I like couldn't sleep. I went out to like the square in Poland, got a coffee, and just sat and like wrote out the whole plot for the whole 3 books. So that's something as well. If you ever find yourself really hit by inspiration, listen to it. Like if you see an idea or a thought or concept, something gets you so excited that you can't sleep and you think about it, like go for it. Because I guess those have been 2 of the greatest things I've done, is like doing the RNT transformation, writing a novel, are 2 quite big undertakings. They might drive both of them, like, they drive you mad a little bit. But definitely like 2 of the things that I think are going to impact my life the most. And both of them, I found myself so like enwrapped with the idea that I found it, I couldn't sleep. I had to kind of like really think about it.
Wow. So it's a 3-part series, this book.
Yeah, my first book is a 3-part series. I've only written the first one. I tried to get it published, but there wasn't any interest. And so now I have a book that will be published. I'm focused on that. So that's going to be the next one, which will be interesting.
Amazing. And you do all this on the treadmill, on the cross trainer?
Yeah, on the elliptical. Yeah, on the cross trainer. Yeah, at the moment it's been on the cross trainer. We'll see if that carries on. Like now I've kind of created this really defendable time in the morning to like get so much stuff done. I might be now like moving my writing into that kind of prime time instead of the lists, or continuing to bike to work instead of taking public transport. Is that something that we discovered when Akash and I were trying to get my activity up? I ended up switching the transit pass. Like I was basically, purchasing a monthly travel card, and then I suddenly realized, like, wait a second, I have a bike. I could probably bike this. Obviously, it's winter in Canada, so it's cold. It's -17, but biking was a big thing too. So yeah, I'm probably gonna. But in the mornings, I'm gonna do some writing. Then I'm gonna bike to work.
Amazing. Yeah, that's really cool. We never really spoke about it until recently.
No.
Yeah. Which is fascinating because I spend most of my mornings writing, and
Yeah, doing it on the elliptical is a pretty sweet feeling though, because you get lost when you're writing. Your kind of brain transports into a different world. So actually, quite often, I'd finish the chapter and be like, "Wow, like that was awesome." I'd probably done 20 minutes, and I'd look, and it would be like 50 minutes done. Or I think the longest I stayed I ended up staying on the elliptical was for 2 hours, just because I was in the zone. I'd taken a lot of caffeine, and I was writing my book, and I had a scene to finish, and it was all flowing. Everything felt good. And I really didn't notice that I was doing exercise at all until I picked my laptop up and looked at the screen underneath and saw that I'd been on it for 2 hours.
Yeah, that's flow state right there, right?
That's it, exactly, yeah.
Amazing. I mean, I don't write. I haven't really written any fiction. Do you do any non-fiction, or is it all just fantasy work?
The writing fiction is definitely my passion. I would love to see you write like writing. I write sci-fi, fantasy stuff. But Akash, I'd love to see you write. You've probably got enough words now to tackle a novel. I'd be interested to see how much words you've got on your blogs and whatnot. There might be enough. Not a novel, but a good book for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely in the works. It's something I want to do in the next few years. So I started one this year. I put it in a draft, but then I thought, I think I want this better. So. Yeah, it's definitely something I'm going to do for sure. But I can see that happening with you if you're writing fiction, being taken to a completely different world. It must be insane. Yeah,
it is. It's awesome. Although I was thinking, did you ever see those Bill Phillips Body for Life books?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
So I saw those on my shelf the other day, and I picked one up because I bought that book, and I think I bought like the journal or something, and I was looking, and I had it. I'd filled it out. I filled out the first thing, and it was like from 2008, and it was all the same goals. It was like the same goals that I hadn't managed to do for like the next 11 years. But I was looking through the transformations, and I was like, wow, like these are. I remember being blown away by the transformations when I first picked up that book as like a young person, and like showing them to my family, and then being like, this doesn't add up. Like, this is crazy. But now you look at the RNT ones, and you guys are right there.
Thank you. What advice would you give to someone starting their own journey?
I'd say throw yourself into it. Just commit to it. It's going to be tough. And really look at this as the puzzle is, how are you going to create your system? This has got to be a long system that you're going to be able to do for the transformation, and then the benefit is going to last you forever. So create your system and then get defensive around your time. Like put a ring fence around it, put attack dogs on it. Like, you've got to protect that time. That time's yours. And this is your time to make your transformation.
Amazing. Couldn't put it better. What's your next goals?
2019 goals. Keep this current condition, and I want to stay just like this for the next 6 months. I'd love to be benching 100 kg. I was at 95 kg for 8, and then we took my carbs away, and then it all started to slip away week after week. But I'd love to be benching 100 kg for 8. That would be awesome. And then like physique stuff, and then maybe in July I'll look into doing some more MMA again. I'd love to get back into that, but I'll see where I am. I just want to keep it really consistent for this next 6 months. Writing goals, got to get my book finished and get that published this year. Work goals, got a ton of work to smash my targets. And then I want to be back in my condo. I've got to stay on the restoration people, the builders, manage that, and see if I can push that timeline along, because they're saying it's another 6 months, which would be a full year out of the unit, and I can't have that. So I've got to really get on those guys and manage them and push them to get me in there earlier.
For sure. As soon as you get the carbs back in there, and as soon as you get your body weight a little bit up, and get routine again, your bench should come back, because pressing is one of those exercises that gets really hit by body weight drops. So yeah, I'm not too surprised. I mean, as soon as you kind of lose, there's like a certain tipping point. As soon as you go below a certain body weight, your bench just tanks. And
really,
it always seems to happen. It's a body weight's the easiest way to improve your bench, and it's also the easiest way to lose your bench.
Right. Yeah, that's really interesting. We'll see what happens. I've got some carbs back in now. I'm excited to see where we can go with it.
We'll see. We shall see. Let's finish up on some rapid fire questions.
Oh boy.
What's next on your bucket list at the moment?
It's honestly, I don't have too much. Just like, I'm excited for the year ahead. I've created a great plan this year. Excited to fill it out. Okay, let's switch that to what place are you looking to travel to? Oh, I haven't been to Bali. I'd love to go there. I'd love to go back to Hawaii. I'm into free diving. I love getting under the water and getting in with marine life. So that's it. One of those two would be awesome.
Amazing. If you take yourself back a month, you've just finished off 3 weeks of the Vagella grind. What's your favorite cheat meal?
Oh, oh, that's a great one. Lemon meringue pie and ice cream. Yes. Like, just enjoying the first ice cream I had, where I just enjoyed it. I didn't feel guilty. I was like, I can eat this. This is great. Just had a proper ice cream. That was awesome.
That's the dessert, or is that the whole thing?
Yeah, just the
dessert.
Huge ice cream. Yeah.
Okay, great. Who should we have on the podcast next?
Oh, keep getting the clients in. I love hearing about these guys that do these big transformation. Like, I've got to give shout outs to those clients like Akash D. That was so helpful. Krishan, Tom Hollis, Manit, like these guys, like that was so helpful. The stuff they had really helped me, especially when I was in like the darker, that dark 3 weeks where you're really, really pushing hard. That was awesome.
Amazing. Yeah. I mean, that's something I'm going to keep doing, because I think the feedback that we've had on when I've started bringing on clients in the last 10 or so episodes has been great, and I think it helps you guys out more than anything. So, and that's the main thing. So we'll keep doing that, and your episode, I'm sure, will hopefully inspire many other clients. So that's the goal.
Oh, I hope so. I hope so. I mean, that's the greatest hope, is that people will be like, oh, if that guy looks like me right now, and like I can move myself forward too. And that was me, right? Just 3 months ago. It's not long at all.
Perfect. How can people reach out to you if you want to give out your handles?
Yeah, I'm at TigerTimJ on Instagram, and I'm on LinkedIn too. That's really it. I'm on Facebook, but it's really is a ghost account. So I'm on. If you're an RNT client, hit me up. If I can help with anything, I'd be so happy to. And I'm sure we'll post the transformation and this all together.
We'll post it up together. Yeah. Cool. If you enjoyed today's episode with Tim, please share it with your family and friends. For more information, please visit www.rntfitness.co.uk. You can follow us on Instagram at rnt_fitness or at Akash Vagella. Thanks for listening.